If you're an African American baseball player, you got to pay your respects to Jackie Robinson. If you're a reggae musician, you got to look back to Bob Marley. If you are a gear reviewer on YouTube, oh, there's so many of them. You got to look back and pay respects to NutnFancy, who was reviewing gear back in 2006. Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, NutnFancy? NutnFancy's ahead of his time. Over a decade ago, he laid down philosophy for scooter heads. NutnFancy is a gear reviewer. He's a retired lieutenant colonel, U.S. Air Force pilot with 21 years of service. Back in 2006, he was doing reviews on gear. He doesn't take any money. He either borrows the product or he pays for it himself, so you can rely on the information he gives you. Now, why would I empathize with that? A few weeks ago, I became intrigued with push scooters. I was looking for a way to get some exercise while scooting. Some people call them kick scooters. I guess I use it interchangeably. I should call it a kick scooter, maybe, except that some electric scooters, you can go into the P settings, that's the program settings, and change them to where in order to have the electricity kick in and propel you forward, you must kick or push the scooter first. So that's a little bit of conflicting meaning there. So I say electric scooter and then kick or push scooter for manual, non-electric scooters. Now, why would you want to go into the P settings and do that? I'll tell you why I do it, because I transport my electric scooters quite a bit because I'm on the road. I do not want something to touch the throttle, like you go around a corner and there's something in the trunk of your car, or in my case, van or back of your truck, that hits the throttle and it lodges, and then your rear tire, or even worse, both tires start spinning. You may or may not notice it because you're up front driving, and then you've got tires spinning away, causing friction, burning rubber. I mean, it could be a fire, could be a lot of things happening. And I also like to let other people ride my scooters, so I don't want them to touch the throttle and it bolts forward and shocks them and turns them off of scootering. So for all those reasons, I set every one of my electric scooters to require a kick or a push to get the engine going. Now, I was looking to, all right, I'll admit it, shed a few pounds. Not that I was overweight. I think most people who look at me would not say that I'm overweight, but it's always good to be healthy, right? Lowers your blood pressure, makes it so your old clothes still fit. There are a lot of good reasons. I don't need to sell you on why it's good to lose weight, okay? But I just wanted a way to combine scooting with burning calories. So the natural answer was to start looking for kick scooters. Now, of course, I still ride my electric scooters. I do. I didn't give them up. Just because you buy a motorcycle doesn't mean you're going to stop driving cars. But I bought a Xootr. If you've listened to previous podcasts, you know Xootr. The Xootr is a solid metal scooter. Well, they have two models, one that has wood and one that has plastic. All of the frames on the various models are metal, but the cheaper model has a plastic deck, and they have other models that are wood and other materials. But it's a commuter type scooter that I kind of use for exercising. So after I had ordered the scooter and was waiting for it to arrive, I started searching the internet. Well, of course I had done some research prior to purchasing the Xootr, but I had not come across a guy by the name NutnFancy, N-U-T-N, Fancy. I had seen some of his videos before. He's a guy who makes really high quality videos. He knows what he's doing. He's intelligent. He's got a great sense of humor, and he's imaginative. He mostly reviews survival type things, gear, and weapons, pistols, things like that. But I came across a video, actually a series of videos, two kind of like short documentaries from 11 years ago. And he's riding the Xootr, the same model that I bought, which is magnesium. And it's, got the 4:3 ratio because that's what televisions were back then. If you look at YouTube now or watch movies or buy DVDs, does anybody buy DVDs anymore? The ratio is 16:9. When I'm making YouTube videos, I always make sure I put the setting for 16:9 because the 4:3 won't take up your entire television. Your televisions back then were more square. So if you see black on either side of your screen when you're watching something, that's 4:3 ratio. And it might have been tape. I don't know if he was doing it on tape or digital, but I was pretty impressed, not only with what he was doing, super low tech. I'm a big fan of Michel Gondry. Has anyone ever heard of Michel Gondry? Gondry. He's a French man who was in a band called Wee Wee, that's O-U-I, and he did a lot of really low-tech videos to awesome results. He's made a bunch of movies since then. He's very famous. He started making claymation videos for his band. Other bands like Bjork and Beck, some of which bands didn't even start with a B, like Active Mass. Active Mass? Massive Attack, not Active Mass. That was a Freudian slip. My wife has a little Freudian slip. After making music videos, of which you've probably seen a few, whether you realize it immediately or not, some of the videos by Bjork were iconic. Also Beck, he has one video where the Shadow is walking down the street and dragging Beck on the sidewalk. A lot of interesting videos. He has just some good ideas. That's Michel Gondry. So that's pretty high praise. I'm just a big fan of Michel Gondry, and it reminded me, the NutnFancy video, of some of Michel Gondry's stuff. But a little deeper than that, what I really enjoyed was some of the things that NutnFancy had to say. Yeah, he's a gun guy. Yeah, he's a survival guy. But the things he had to say about scootering were also, I thought, very profound, very deep. And some of the quotes are worth repeating and worth remembering. And I put it in the back of my mind. One of these days, I'm going to do an episode of the podcast where I'm going to let scooter heads, followers of the Electric Scooter Podcast, listen to some of the things that NutnFancy had to say about scootering. He was talking about push scootering, but as you'll be able to tell, it applies to electric scooting as well. 99% of it. 11 years ago, I don't know how many people were electric scootering. I'm sure there were people doing it, and there may have been electric scooters. A company called GoPed, certainly for the last 20 years, has been making scooters with engines, gasoline engines on the back, and they're pretty popular. They're a company out of California, GoPed, but they have a factory in Nevada. I recently bought one for a relative without the electric motor. They're a little bit pricey. I don't know what you think about for a push scooter, $300. Yeah, that's what I paid for my Xootr, $320. And I think the GoPed was about the same, but rather than the polyurethane skateboard type wheels that are on my Xootr, the GoPeds have inflatable tires, or at least they're rubber tires. I'm gonna find out soon after my daughter rides it for a while, and I'll get a review from her on what she thinks of it. She's normally not a scooter person, but we'll see. But anyway, let's cut to the chase and see what NutnFancy has to say.
I am here, but I have got to get there. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on gas.
We are going to hear a few quotes from NutnFancy. He is talking about the Xootr. I went through similar thought process that he went through as far as trying to get exercise, but still into scooters. But whenever he says Xootr, I want to tell you that applies to electric scooters as well. When he's talking about safety, things you can do to get out and see the world and adventure and those types of things. So don't get bogged down thinking he's only talking about this one device, which is a kick scooter. Because everything he says does apply to electric scooters as well. Now, the exercise part of it, it's going to apply more significantly to kick scooters or push scooters. But let's give NutnFancy a listen.
I'm going to ask you a question. How much adventure do you get in your life, day to day? Now, I'm not talking about scaling Mount Everest, whitewater rapids, maybe rappelling off of cliffs. I'm all for that stuff, actually. If you can make it happen, I say make it happen. Take your friends and family with you. Make those valuable family memories that you're going to have forever. You know I'm all about the memories. But what if it's just you? You're alone, you're on a business trip or maybe a pleasure trip somewhere, and you're stuck in a hotel. Can you have adventure then? You can do what most dudes do, and that's sit around and watch television in the room. Not nothing fancy. That sucks. First off, you need to exercise. You need to get out and work your body and stay in shape.
I think that's fairly self-explanatory. When you're traveling, I travel a lot. Do you travel a lot? I don't know. But even if you're kind of a homebody, you need to get out and get some exercise. And one good way to do that is with an electric scooter, get some fresh air. Another way, if you really want to get more of an intense workout, is with a push scooter, or what they sometimes call a kick scooter. Don't sit around in your hotel room or at home just watching TV. A scooter is quick, light, easy. Just jump on it and go.
Now, there's lots of ways to skin this cat. You can get out and walk, you can get out and jog. Both of those are great aerobic activities. They're fun. In fact, I used to do them. I used to jog a lot until I had knee issues on my right knee. And now I kind of want to preserve what I have for backpacking and other more outdoorsy adventures. So I'm real careful how I use that knee. Certainly getting out and walking is one way to do it. Cruising, a leisurely walk. And for some people, that's what they want. They enjoy that most. It gives them time to see the sights. For one, I'm always under time constraints. I don't have a lot of time, so I got to get out and make it happen. And to make it happen, I want to cover the largest distance possible in the shortest amount of time possible. However, there's certain things that I rule out. One is a rental car. I don't want to spend money on a rental car if I go to a different location every time. It's expensive. I'd rather use that money for other things, gear purchasing, and something's got to give. So I generally don't allocate a lot of money for rental cars. Also, it's a hassle, especially if you're in an urban environment. I have to find a place to park it. That's parking fees. No thanks. And also, it doesn't give me the exercise I'm after. Yeah, so a rental car can be a hassle, can be expensive. How about a bicycle? It all depends on what your system can take. And by system, I'm talking, how did you get to your location? If you drove, via a van, maybe an SUV, a car, you might be able to bring a bicycle with you. However, if you flew, either airlines or military, it's going to be tough. I know because I've done it. In the airlines, you're going to have to buy a box, you're going to have to take the bike down, you're going to have to put it together, check it in, check it out, longer lines. Again, hassle. What you want to do when you go for that adventure is to make it sustainable. Something you can do year after year, week after week, month after month, no matter where you find yourself. And to be sustainable, it's got to be affordable and it's got to be simple and cheap. At least for me. I've got other things that need my money, and trust me, I don't want to be spending it on bike boxes and rental cars. How about running? A lot of guys will get out and they'll jog. I was one of those guys, right up to the point where I started having knee problems. And jogging's fun, it's enjoyable. However, you still won't be able to cover the same amount of ground that you will with the device I'm getting ready to show you. And I think I've already talked about walking. It's too slow. Sorry, it ain't for me. I don't cover enough ground. So what to do? There's not a lot of options when you throw all that out. Cheap, high speed, easy to carry along, affordable, and let's add durable too. It's got to be durable. I mean, if you take something along and it breaks after 2 weeks of use, what's the use?
Apart from ancient philosophers, have you ever listened to someone and they're just saying things that have been in your mind and they're just kind of rephrasing them for you? That's what NutnFancy does here. Next, he's going to say a couple things about safety, what you should wear, that kind of thing, and I'm on board.
So you guys have probably been thinking the whole time, hey, NutnFancy, what's with the orange shirt? I thought you were into tactical colors and stuff. Depends on what I'm doing. Right now I'm getting ready to take a Xootr out on some busy and main roads. I might have to be in the roads at times. I want to be seen. And that strikes to the heart of Xootering. You want to stay safe. You don't want to die doing it. And it can be dangerous depending on where you go. Most places have sidewalks, some don't, and you might have to be in the road. Wearing a black color or something subdued is dumb. Wear something bright, a reflective vest. You see my Camelback in the background has a reflective triangle on it. Yeah, I've done this at night too, just caught after dark.
Yeah, we've all been caught after dark, and I like to wear bright colors anyway. I also purchased something called a Steel Mate light that mounts to the rear of the helmet, so when you're on a scooter you can make it flash. It also will detect inertia, so when you start to slow down, it kind of assumes that you're putting on the brakes, and you get like a brake light on the back of your helmet. So even though you don't plan on riding at night, there's always that possibility that you will get caught out. So plan for that. The next thing NutnFancy is going to talk about is the entire reason I am making this episode. As I mentioned, I did buy a Xootr, but I did not see his 11-year-old video until after I'd already purchased it. But I have friends that fall into this category he's talking about, where scootering's not cool. I'm not going to ride a scooter. You know, they jump on it and they have a ton of fun and they're in the wind, but, you know, one of my friends might see me. This next thing that you're going to hear from NutnFancy, to me, was just profound and succinct, and he expresses exactly my feelings on the subject.
First off, a lot of guys are too insecure to be found on top of a kick scooter. That's a personal problem you have. You need to get beyond it. I know this because of my military buddies. As I've taken my Xootrs over with me to Europe or the Middle East, I've heard it all, man. They love it and they think it's the coolest thing in the world. But for them, they're like, there's no way I could do that. I just wouldn't want to be seen on a scooter. Like, whatever, dude, get past it. I mean, seek therapy. I think they have therapists that can get you past that. But get beyond it, because you're really closing yourself off to an outstanding way to get around that's adventurous and fun.
I'm a podcaster. I use my voice a lot. I mean, nobody listens to me in real life, which is probably part of the reason I podcast and YouTube. But I don't think I could have said it better.
If it's fun, it's going to save you money. It's an adventure. It's good for you. It's healthy. It harms the environment, well, frankly, less than most other things you can do, because we can't say zero. There are lithium batteries that need to be dug out of the earth, and the scooters need to be transported via ships and all that kind of thing. So it's not zero. But like I say, I do this for fun. And there are other hobbies that are way more destructive to the environment than riding a scooter, especially a kick or push scooter. Come on, you're just making yourself healthy, having a good time. If you have something inside you, some sort of weird hang-up about scooters and looking cool, get past it. He said there's therapists that can get you past that. I don't know what that has to do with insecurity, I suppose. But he's saying go see a therapist. He's speaking hyperbole. But the fact is, just get out and do it. Don't let what other people think stop you. And again, he always emphasizes safety. So let's hear a little bit more about what he has to say about safety. You might not like hearing it, but it's true nonetheless.
Secondly, and I can't stress it enough, gloves, safety gear. All of it that I'm wearing is crucial to you doing this safely. I don't want you to get out there and get hurt. You got to do it smart and do it safe. And yeah, sometimes you're going to be in dangerous areas, and I'm talking in where there's a lot of vehicular traffic. Gloves are imperative. You will wipe out on your Xootr. Not if, you will wipe out. Been there, done it many times. The first thing that's going to hit the pavement when you hit a crack or a big rock is you're going to go, butt over tea kettle, and your hands are going to face plant right on the cement. These will save your hands a lot. This is probably my 20th pair of gloves while Xootering, and I've got lots of others in my other bags. Helmet speaks for itself. Always wear a helmet, and I always put reflective gear on top of that helmet too. Again, if I'm caught at night, which has happened many times, I want to be seen.
Should you want to see it for yourself, the name of that YouTube video is Adventure Xootr, Xootr, by NutnFancy, Part 1. Apologize for the audio. Again, it's 11 years old. He's wandering around in Florida with cars driving by, water fountains in the background, people talking, seagulls squawking overhead. I did what I could to mitigate as much of the background noise as I could using bandpass filters and other tricks that I have in my bag of audio tools. I wasn't 100% successful, but I think you could hear what he said and get the point. And the things he said made me change the way I look at some things and made me go out and buy a couple things. I bought for my Xootr a headlight and a taillight, a red taillight. I lost the taillight. I got to find a better way to attach it. I ordered another one. It wasn't much money. I think it's like $15 for the two of them. They're both USB rechargeable. The other thing he said that got me thinking was reflective tape. I bought 6 rolls of multicolored night reflective tape for, I think it was $8 US. I haven't used any of it yet, and I'm not going to put them on my ankles like he did. That's cool. He does that. The more, the better, but I'm also not going to stripe them up and down my pants or anything like that. But I may put some on one or two of my backpacks that have insufficient reflection, and I may add a little bit to the back of my helmets, but certainly up and down the Xootr, because the Xootr is not made to be seen at night. Most of my other scooters have lights front and back. They are electric scooters. But this little set that I bought of a clear, transparent headlight and a red taillight, pretty neat. I may be able to just clip that red taillight onto a back pocket or a backpack or something like that, and you can make it flash or steady. It's not as high tech as the Steel Mate, which I bought. It's a little steel plate that you affix permanently to the back of your helmet, and then the light has a magnet on it that you can just stick onto that steel plate, and it will sense when you're slowing down that it'll give it a brake light type effect. It will blink red so that cars behind you can tell, hey, there's a scooter in the road hitting the brakes. Electric podcast scooter news. Dagwood here to bring to you. Electric podcast scooter news. Dagwood here to bring to you. Calling all scooter heads. If you recall the Ecuador episode, I was traveling around with the CEO of Travelissima Electric Scooters in Cuenca, Ecuador. His name is Francisco Castro, and he is looking at bringing in new lines of scooters to Ecuador, and he's looking at the King Song N10 Plus, the Dualtron Mini LG, and the Dualtron Mini LG. One of them's 13 amp hours, one's 21 amp hours. I personally would always go for the 21 amp hours, but he's looking to sell these in Ecuador. If you have any opinions, his email address is scooters@scoostore.com. That's SCOOSTORE.com. If you have any opinions for or against. I didn't know anything about the King Song N10 Plus, but I did look it up, and from what I'm seeing, it's compared a lot to the Segway 9bot Max, but with more features and a little bit beefed up. So sounds to me like it'd be hard to go wrong, and I always do like the tubeless tires. So just thought I'd put it out there on the Electric Podcast Scooter News. Dagwood here to bring it to you. So we're nearing the end of the episode, and I kind of promised myself after the last episode, which I did all on the iPhone, I want to test out different ways of podcasting when I'm on the road, more mobile, portable type ways of bringing the latest in electric scooters to you. But I wasn't real happy with it. But it wasn't so much the equipment I was using. Maybe it was because there's airplanes flying overhead and cars driving by, and you could even hear me shuffling my feet. So I don't know how else to test equipment except real world. I thought about, man, I could redo the whole episode in the Scooter Dome studio, but nah, I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into these podcasts. I don't want to redo an entire podcast, and I'm lazy. How many times have you heard me say that? So I guess when I'm traveling, I don't know, I have to bring my whole kit, my whole gear with me, and maybe I just will do that. In fact, I kind of decided there is not a shortcut. You're either going to use good equipment that's a little bit bulky and things are going to sound good, or you're going to do it a cheap, chintzy little way on your iPhone and it will sound bad. I don't know. Maybe there's something in between that I haven't found yet. I'm going to keep plugging away. And I kind of broke my promise to myself because this time I used completely different software, and I did half of the podcast on my laptop and half on my mainframe computer. So I don't know. I can't even trust myself, right? But I'm just trying to do what I can to bring the latest, best quality scooter information to you. I hope you enjoyed this show. Until next episode, keep the shiny side up and the dirt shod bottom.